Good evening and welcome to City Council meeting, the City of Aurora, May 11th. I'll ask everyone to stand for Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Ms. Schweikhofer, please call the roll.
Ms. Barner?
Present.
Ms. Grandillo?
Here.
Mr. Hattridge?
Here.
Mr. Horvath?
Here.
Mr. Kovach? Mr. Cudley?
Here.
Ms. McDougald?
Present.
Mr. Vaca? Mr. Wolf?
Here.
Okay, was there anyone who'd like to reconsider a prior action? Seeing none, we'll go to the meeting minutes of April 27th.
Move for adoption.
Second.
We have a move and second to adopt. Any questions or additions? Ms. Schweikhofer, please call the roll.
Mr. Cudley?
Yes.
Ms. Grandillo?
Yes.
Mr. Hattridge?
Yes.
Mr. Horvath?
Yes.
Ms. McDougald?
Yes.
Mr. Vaca?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Ms. Barner?
Yes.
All right, those meeting minutes are approved. Mayor?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Good evening, everyone. Once again, there was a water line break last week at Russet Woods in Walden, and there were also several leaks, and I just want to thank the water and service personnel that assisted with the repairs. We have been busy patching roads ever since hot mix became more available just in the last 2 weeks or so. We have been starting with the main roads first, although this week we are working on Aurora Lake Road. Flags will be flown at half-staff this Friday, May 15th, in recognition of Peace Officers Memorial Day. Please do what you can to recognize our safety forces on this important day of recognition. Also, as a reminder, this week is Fill a Bag, Feed a Family Week in Aurora, sponsored by Food to Share. Food bags are being distributed to homes, and residents are asked to fill one or more bags with non-perishable, non-expired food items, paper products, and detergents. The bags can be left on your doorstep Saturday, May 16th, and volunteers will pick them up after 1 o'clock. You can also drop the bags off at the Volunteers of America on North Aurora Road. I've had a number of meetings, as you can see, including my quarterly meeting with the Chamber of Commerce officials. We also held an ethics program here in City Hall, which some of you attended, and I think almost all of our senior level staff attended, put on by the Ohio Ethics Commission. I think it's extremely important that we continue to do that on a regular basis. Lastly, I want to thank Council and the folks in City Hall for their very kind expressions of sympathy to my family and me upon the loss of my mother-in-law. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions for the mayor?
Yes. Mr. Horvath?
Mr. Cudley?
Yes, Mayor, maybe you can't answer this, or Mr. True. Talking about water breaks, I noticed there's water on West Pioneer Trail by the Walker Building. Is that a leak that we have?
Mr. Chairman, to the councilman. Yes, that's a small water leak right now. It has to do with the schools, though, so we're trying to isolate it so we don't have to take the schools out of service. We believe there's a separate line behind the schools, but because of the lack of plans, when some of the school buildings were built, we've got to get our hands on that to make sure. If not, we'll wait till school's out to fix that so we don't have to shut the school off during the daytime.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else for the mayor? Okay, the law director has decided not to give his report verbally. Is there any questions for the law director? All right, seeing none, you have a copy of the president's report in front of you. Council is asked to support a motion to add ordinances 2015-072 through 2015-077 to tonight's agenda.
Second.
We have a move and second to adopt or to move forward. Ms. Schweikhofer, no, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion's carried. The proposed legislation was discussed earlier tonight, and that will be part of our tonight's agenda. All right, citizens' comments. Anyone wishing to comment on anything on tonight's agenda, please come forward. Mr. Mazzaro.
Mr. Horvath, members of the council, my name is Jordan Mazzaro, 186 Eldridge. On 032, can someone tell me why this is being postponed? You postponed it much longer, he's got to put a new road in there. On 065, I asked a question at the last meeting, what's the difference between this agreement and the difference between 1971 agreement? How many changes have been made? Because the other ones seem to be working out pretty well. And last but not least, on 076, one, I don't have a problem with a sidewalk project. However, does anybody have what the estimated cost is going to be, not only for the engineering and the estimates, but the actual cost of putting the sidewalks down? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Mr. True, do you want to comment on 32, because we are going to postpone that again this evening?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I can comment on 32 and also 76 if
Thank
you'd
you.
like briefly. Yes, on 32, it's postponed again. The streetlights aren't in yet. He has had a contract that has been awarded, but they have not put the streetlights in. And until he completes this, I do not allow any subdivision to become dedicated until it's completed, because we do not want to do it as a city after. They have to pay all the installation fees and lighting fees, and then after that, we'll take it over. So he has to do that yet.
And 76?
That's on 32. On 76 is the professional services, 31.5 for the, the engineering itself, and those engineering will provide the estimate for the finalizing the project too, within that. That's part of their description and the scope of services.
Thank you.
I'll address 65, Mr. President.
Mr. DePiero?
Mr. President, there was a question regarding 2015-65, the health, the Portage County Health District. We've talked about this at least two cow committee hearings. However, I'll just briefly outline some of the changes. There's a lot of updated language. Obviously, it's a 45-year-old agreement. Updated much of the language. There's a requirement of increased reporting to the communities that are served. There is a laundry list of services that must be provided by the health district to the communities, as well as a renewal every 5 years, which will make the Portage County District come back so that we can revisit the agreement on a 5-year and 5-year intervals. There's a number of other smaller changes, but those are the main ones. We believe it'll increase accountability and service to the community.
Thank you. Councilman, questions? Ms. McDougald?
Thank you, Mr. President. On issue or ordinance 069, I'm very glad that we're proceeding with this, but I would like to ask again, and I know Mr. Kraus isn't here, for council to have some idea of what our network security plan is for the city. On 076, I'd like to commend the mayor for her work on this, and I appreciate that we're moving forward. And on 077, I have concerns with suspending the rules on this. I think we should give it another reading before there were a lot of questions on the committee whole on this, and I think it would behoove us to wait a little longer before we proceed on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, we'll go on to tonight's agenda. Ordinance 2015-032 is from the Committee of the Whole and is on third reading and was postponed on April 27th. It's an ordinance accepting for dedication Shannon Place, which is part of Hawthorne Subdivision Phase 5C, for recording as a public street in the city of Aurora.
Move to suspend. Second.
Postpone.
All right, postpone. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Postpone.
Okay.
Excuse
We
me.
have a move and second, right? Second. Move and second to postpone. Ms. Frykoffer, please call the roll.
Ms. Grandilla?
Yes.
Mr. Vaca?
Yes.
Ms. Barner?
Yes.
Mr. Hatridge?
Yes.
Mr. Horvath?
Yes.
Mr. Cudley?
Yes.
Ms. McDougall?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes. Ordinance 2015-032 is postponed. Ordinance 2015-053 is from the Committee of the Whole and is on third reading. It's an ordinance authorizing the finance director to delete and close Fund 31 FES Community Grant, Fund 61, Heavy Equipment Replacement, Fund 62, Sale of Equipment, and Fund 64, Building Maintenance. As the funds are no longer utilized, have no cash balances, and declare an emergency so the funds can be closed by May 31, 2015.
Second.
We have a move and second to adopt. Questions? Ms. Schweikhofer, please call the roll.
Ms. McDougal?
Yes.
Ms. Barner?
Yes.
Ms. Grandillo?
Yes.
Mr. Hattrick?
Yes.
Mr. Horvath?
Yes.
Mr. Cudley?
Yes.
Mr. Vaca?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2015-053 is adopted. Ordinance 2015-054 is from the Committee of the Whole and is on third reading. It's an ordinance withdrawing the Community Reinvestment Area Tax Abatement granted to Forfolia Limited Partnership, which was authorized by ordinance 2007-162 and further extended by ordinance 2011-11, and declaring an emergency to properly terminate the agreement.
Second.
We have a move and second to adopt. Ms. Schweikhofer, please call the roll.
Mr. Vaca?
Yes.
Ms. Grandillo?
Yes.
Mr. Hattrick?
Yes.
Mr. Horvath?
Yes.
Mr. Cudley?
Yes.
Ms. McDougal?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Ms. Barner?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance number 2015-054 is adopted. Ordinance 2015-055 is from the Committee of the Whole and is on third reading. It's an ordinance withdrawing the Community Reinvestment Area Tax Abatement granted to Aurora Dental Associates, which was authorized by ordinance 2011-163, and declaring an emergency to properly terminate the agreement.
Move to adopt.
Second.
I have a move and second to adopt. Ms. Schweikhofer, please call the roll.
Mr. Hattrick?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Ms. Barner?
Yes.
Ms. Grandillo?
Yes.
Mr. Horvath?
Yes.
Mr. Cudley?
Yes.
Ms. McDougal?
Yes.
Mr. Vaca?
Ordinance 2015-055 is adopted. Ordinance 2015-056 is from the Committee of the Whole and is on third reading. It's an ordinance authorizing the payment of consulting fees in the amount of $5,000 to Economic Development Services for consulting services in connection with the audit and collection of an underpayment of $26,832.26 from AT&T for cell tower lease rental fees at the North Water Tower, appropriating the necessary funds from the Water Fund number 70.
Move to adopt.
Second.
We have a move and second to adopt. Ms. Schweikhofer, please call the roll.
Ms. McDougal?
Yes.
Ms. Grandillo?
Yes.
Mr. Hattrick?
Yes.
Mr. Horvath?
Yes.
Mr. Cudley?
Yes.
Mr. Vaca?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Ms. Barner?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2015-056 is adopted. Ordinance 2015-065 is from the Committee of the Whole and is on second reading. It's an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into the 2015 amendment to the agreement with Portage County Combined General Health District, substantially in the form attached hereto, and declare an emergency to properly provide continued health services to local residents. And this will go on to third reading. Ordinance 2015-067 is from the Committee of the Whole and is on second reading. It's an ordinance accepting the proposal and renewing the current program with HCC U.S. Specialty Insurance Company for the purpose of providing the city's property and casualty insurance for the policy period June 1, 2015 to June 1, 2016 through Edward Sutton Insurance Agency, the premium for which shall be in the amount of $124,481, taking necessary funds from the General Fund number 1, the Water Fund number 70, and the Sewer Fund number 72, and declaring emergency as the current policy expires May 31st, 2015, and this will go on third reading. Ordinance 2015-069 is from the Committee of the Whole and is on second reading. It's an ordinance accepting the proposal of Illinois National Insurance Company for the purpose of providing the city's cyber edge security and privacy liability insurance for the policy period June 1, 2015 to June 1, 2016 through Edward Sutton Insurance Agency, the premium for which shall be in the amount of $5,403, and appropriating the necessary funds from the General Fund number 1 and declaring an emergency. This will go on third reading. Ordinance 2015-070 is from the Committee of the Whole and it is on first reading. It's an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a community reinvestment area, CRA agreement, with JIT Packaging Aurora Incorporated for 100% 15-year tax abatement of real property taxes in accordance with the provisions of the city's community reinvestment area known as CRA 1, adopted by ordinance 1994-52, amended by ordinance 1999-36, and ordinance 2005-105, and declare an emergency in order to facilitate the construction as early as possible. And this will go on the second reading. Ordinance 2015-071 is from the Committee of the Whole and is on first reading. It's an ordinance accepting the proposal of Stantec in the amount not to exceed $51,775 for an evaluation of the city's wastewater treatment plants to identify, prioritize, and develop solutions to meet community needs in a financially affordable manner, taking $40,000 from the Sewer Capital Fund number 72 or 73, an additional appropriation of $11,775 from the Sewer Capital Fund number 73, and declare an emergency. This will go on to second reading. Ordinance 2015-072 was from the Committee of the Whole and is on first reading. It's an ordinance appropriating $6,000 from the Trust Agency None for Under 21 Fund number 85 to cover expenses for the None for Under 21 program. The mayor's asked for suspension.
Second.
We have a move and second to suspend. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried.
Second.
We have a move and second to adopt. Any comments from the public? Mr. Hatridge?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question. Is this for Aurora schools only, or is this involving many schools that attend this thing?
It's all Portage. Oh, sorry.
Portage County?
Chief,
There's approximately 16
Chief.
school districts, yes.
may I ask you, please? So you can walk over and say Portage County.
It started out with just Portage County to answer the question, and it's gradually grown to include some out of districts such as Trumbull County and Mahoning County. I think there were 16 school districts there this year, almost 2,000 kids. So, yes.
Super, thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. All right, ordinance, oh, sorry. Mr. Cudley?
Thank you, Mr. Horvath. I just wanted to reiterate what I had stated during the Committee of the Whole meeting, and that is that the funds that are in this trust and agency fund are not taxpayers' dollars. They are monies that are donated, and Aurora is the recipient of that, and we hold the money and then disperse it. So just wanted to clarify that with the viewing public.
Thank you. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, Ms. Schweikhofer, please call the roll.
Mr. Cudley?
Yes.
Ms. Grandilla?
Yes.
Mr. Hatridge?
Yes.
Mr. Horvath?
Yes.
Ms. McDougal?
Yes.
Mr. Vaca?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Ms. Barner?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2015-072 is adopted. Ordinance 2015-073 is from the Committee of the Whole and is on first reading. It's an ordinance selecting the bid of and awarding a contract to Pipelines Incorporated as the best responsive and responsible bidder for 2015 culvert pipe pursuant to the bid pricing on the attached exhibit, taking necessary funds from the road funds number 40 and 41 and general fund number 1, and declaring emergency as the existing contract expires May 20th, 2015. The mayor's asked for suspension.
Still move.
I have a move and second to suspend. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion's carried.
Move to adopt.
Second.
We have a move and second to adopt. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, Ms. Schweikhofer, please call the roll.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Ms. Grandilla?
Yes.
Mr. Hatridge?
Yes.
Mr. Horvath?
Yes.
Mr. Cudley?
Yes.
Ms. McDougal?
Yes.
Mr. Vaca?
Yes.
Ms. Barner?
Yes.
Ordinance 2015-073 is adopted. Ordinance 2015-074 is from the Committee of the Whole and is on first reading. It's an ordinance selecting the bid of and awarding a contract to Shaler's Asphalt as the best responsive and responsible bidder for 2015 bituminous hot mix pursuant to the bid pricing on the attached exhibit, taking the necessary funds from the road funds number 40 and 41, and declaring, and the general fund number 1, and declaring emergency as the existing contract expires May 30th, 2015. The mayor's asked for suspension.
So moved.
Second.
We have a move and second to suspend. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Move to
Motion carried.
adopt. Sorry.
We have a move and second to adopt. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, Ms. Schweikhofer, please call the roll.
Mr. Hatridge?
Yes.
Mr. Vaca? Yes. Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Ms. Barner?
Yes.
Ms. Grandillo?
Yes.
Mr. Horvath?
Yes.
Mr. Cudley?
Yes.
Ms. McDougal?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2015-074 is adopted. Ordinance 2015-075 is from the Committee of the Whole and is on first reading. It's an ordinance selecting the bid of and awarding a contract to Ontario Stone as the best responsive and responsible bidder for 2015 crushed limestone, washed gravel, and other materials pursuant to the pricing on the attached exhibit, taking necessary funds from the road funds number 40 and 41, and the general fund number 1, and declaring an emergency as existing contract expires May 20th, 2015. The mayor's asked for suspension.
So moved.
Second.
We have a move and second to suspend. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried.
Second.
We have a move and second to adopt. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, Ms. Schweikhofer, please call the roll.
Mr. Vaca?
Yes.
Mr. Hatridge?
Yes.
Mr. Horvath?
Yes.
Mr. Cudley?
Yes.
Ms. McDougal?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Ms. Barner?
Yes.
Ms. Grandillo?
Yes.
Ordinance 2015-075 is adopted. Ordinance 2015-076 is from the Committee of the Whole and is on first reading. It's an ordinance accepting the proposal of and authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Hayduck and Cox and Associates Incorporated in the amount of $31,606 to provide engineering and surveying services for Phase 2 of the connectivity project, taking the necessary funds from the general fund number 1 and declaring an emergency in order to begin Phase 2 of the connectivity project. The mayor's asked for suspension.
Move for suspension.
Second.
We have a move and second to suspend. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried.
Move for adoption.
We have a move and second to adopt. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, Ms. Schweikhofer, please call the roll.
Ms. McDougal?
Yes.
Mr. Cudley?
Yes.
Mr. Vaca? Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Ms. Barner?
Yes.
Ms. Grandillo?
Yes.
Mr. Hatridge?
Yes.
Mr. Horvath?
Yes. Ordinance 2015-076 is adopted. Ordinance 2015-077 is from the Committee of the Whole and is on first reading. It's an ordinance granting an access easement substantially in the form attached here to Dominion East Ohio Gas for the purpose of maintaining pipelines and declaring an emergency in order to assist in the public utility in the proper maintenance of its pipelines. Mayor's asked for suspension.
So
moved.
We have a move and second to suspend. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Ms. Schweikhofer, please call the roll.
Mr. Cudley?
Yes.
Ms. Grandillo?
Yes.
Mr. Hatridge?
Yes.
Mr. Horvath?
Yes.
Ms. McDougal?
No.
Mr. Vaca?
No.
Mr. Wolf?
No.
Ms. Barner?
No.
Okay, ordinance 2015-077, the rules are not suspended. Mr. Vaca?
Yes, it's come to our attention that this easement is for a pipe above ground, and there are some concerns by some of my colleagues here. My concern is safety. I'd like to know what they're going to do before we say go ahead in lieu of safety. Whether they put up guardrails, fences, or whatever, we don't know that. It's like anything else. Promise them anything, but give them nothing. So we need to know what they're going to do first, and then we can proceed on the second reading. Thank you.
All right, ordinance 2015-077 will go on the second reading. Are there any comments from the general public on anything tonight or ever? Ms. Greer? Yes? You were in plenty of time today. Ms. Guerrero, I'm going to ask you to please leave your, give your name and address again, please.
Mary Greer, 8783 Weaver Road, Schillersville, Ohio. My topic is well casing and cement failure rates. Oh well. In all cases where an aquifer is pierced during a drilling operation, that aquifer is open to whatever fluids are used during drilling and production. How well do cement and casing stand the test of time? Do you know? Do they last 1 year, 5 years, 10, 20, 30 years? The industry says there is a low probability that contaminants will ever migrate. Let probability be the key word. From 2007 to 2010, one well integrity violation was issued for every 6 wells examined, 17,000 nationally. One study, if you look at the poster, shows that 2 to 6 wells of 100 fail by the first year, 33 of 100 by year 35. Another study shows 50 of 100 fail by year 15. All the data for this is in your packet. The injection well a few hundred feet from the Cuyahoga River on Allen Road in Hiram is 40 years old. The Coit Road well next door to Streetsboro's water supply is 25 years old. Are the casing and cement of these wells still intact? We will not realize their failure until there's nothing we can do about it, because water migration through aquifers is very slow, in some places 1 mile in 5 years. I'm asking tonight that you read the information I leave you.
You got 30 seconds.
That's okay. It's a huge topic. That's why you have all the information. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Greer.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Mr. Mazzaro?
I don't care if you have a show.
You have 30
Mr.
seconds.
Horvat, members of
You have 30 seconds left.
My name is George Massaro, 186 Eldridge. I have 3 real quick items here. First of all, the mayor informed me tonight that the bathroom, the new bathroom over here, cost $6,848. 2, I brought to your attention, but I was cut off at the last meeting in reference to the cable cost, and he said it was taken care of. People have to understand on their cable bill, if they have TWC, there is a place there for an assessment. And basically, the citizens of this community pay approximately $165,000 a year on their monthly bills for the cable service that we have from, it's on cable 17 and cable 15, okay? So the fact is, we pay a lot of money out for that. I checked that several years ago, and their attorney sent me a letter on it. Last but not least, you heard me talk about the mixed use, and I appreciate the comments made by your law director. But I want to, review to let you know, on the 29th of April, I'm sorry, the Aurora Advocate come out with their item in reference to the mixed unit. However, since then, I've received 3 different articles where major superstore is going to be moving in over there, yet we know nothing about this in Aurora. So somebody's not communicating with someone in reference to the mixed unit. When I talk about mixed unit, I'm talking about the total, both in Bainbridge as well as Aurora. And we better start keeping our ears open and start, giving some more information to Bainbridge with reference to this. Thank you.
All right, any comments? Anyone else from the public? Seeing none. Ms. Grandillo?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Just to kind of piggyback on the mayor's Fill a Bag, Feed a Family Week, and to, for the Walden people who may be watching this, per an agreement with the Walden Association, since Walden does really not permit or like solicitors in the neighborhood, bags have already been delivered to either your mail hut slot or your mail or your paper box. We will be up at the Walden Clubhouse from 9 to 1, and you can drop off your bags there, or as the mayor said, you can drop them off at Volunteers of America. Thank you all in advance for your generosity.
Thank you. Ms. McDougall?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to thank Mr. True for work done on our street, Ironwood Circle, the repaired culvert or whatever. It looks great. And also to piggyback, as we are speaking, as we're having this meeting, bags had been delivered throughout for the Fill a Bag, Feed a Family throughout the whole city. So if you're watching this, I'm hoping you got your bag. Please participate. And please don't put expired food in the bags because we can't give it out. Their bags will all be collected on Saturday. And for all of those in Rotary and every other Boy Scouts that are participating, thank you so much. This was a citywide effort, and I appreciate the mayor making it such a big deal as well.
Thank you. Mr. Vaca?
Thank you. I wonder if they could use an old Chevy carburetor. One thing, the ad hoc committee minutes, I just read them here a little ago, and I'd like to have those minutes forwarded to the actual ad hoc committee that meets every 3 months. I think they should be kept in tune with what's going on with the ad hoc committee. The actual rec advisory committee should get these minutes also. That's all.
Thank you. Mr. Hatridge?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a question I meant to ask a while ago, and it flew by me before I had a chance to say anything. On the sidewalks, my question, we may not have an answer until the study comes back, but we do have some existing sidewalks, like the one from, I think, the corner here down to Chet Edwards. And actually, it's the old sidewalk where you gotta walk up through Chet Edwards' front porch, go around. If there's any sidewalks that are there now, which there are, will we use those, or will those need to be torn out and replaced with new ones?
Mayor?
Anyone knows?
Mr. President, Mr. Hatridge, actually, I should have explained that one of the 4 items we're looking at in this Phase 2 is to repair or replace the sidewalks on the west side of South Chillicothe from West Pioneer to 240 South Chillicothe. That's a replacement or a repair.
Right.
Okay?
Okay, thanks a lot.
Ms. Barner?
Yes, thank you, President. A couple things as well with the food drive this week. If you do not want to do the bags, I like the fact that we also receive letters, and you could always do a monetary donation as well, which I think is fantastic. Either way, is you're still donating, and it's going to help. I'd also like to thank Mr. True for taking care of the wonderful potholes over by Treat Road going into Barrington. The day I called him, they were repaired very quickly. So thank you, Mayor and Mr. True, so acting quickly on that. I also want to let Barrington Boulevard, people just going through that road, or people who reside in Barrington, it will get taken care of. The landscaping's sort of been on hold due to the fact of who they're deciding to use to mow that. So I know it looks ungodly, and we're getting more rain. It's going to be longer, but I've been safe to say that it will get cut this week. So hopefully Barrington Boulevard will look very attractive soon. Finally, I do want to mention, and I know unfortunately Mr. Kraus is not here. I was in attendance to soccer games and baseball games this weekend, not only for my kids, obviously other parents who observed it. We are in need of more trash cans. There is litter over at Field 6, and it was embarrassing on Sunday. There was trash everywhere, and I know it's a Sunday, so I don't know if city workers are working on Sunday, but it was atrocious, and because it was so hot, there were so many bees there. And I think really, truly, not only people in our community, but other visitors, if there was trash cans were more available, they wouldn't be polluting the area. So if there's something we can do about getting more trash cans over at the soccer fields and baseball fields, I know it'd be greatly appreciated. Other than that, thank you, and that's all.
Mr. Cudley?
Thank you, Mr. Horvat. I just want to notify the public and remind council that next Thursday, the 21st, the Aurora Historical Society is having its monthly meeting. The public is invited. We are going to be talking about the Deed House project. Mayor Benjamin is going to be there to speak on behalf of the city, and I, as president, will be making some comments. So we look forward to having this meeting open to the public and seeing all members of council there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wolf?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Vaca, I'll make sure that you get the minutes.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Mayor?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I wanted to address the issue of the mixed-use district raised by a prior speaker. Bainbridge owns a lot of the property on the north side of the mixed-use district, and actually theirs is not officially mixed use right now, as far as I know. Of course, our jurisdiction is limited by our city limits. We have done everything that we can to protect Aurora's interests on the Aurora side of that property. We have been in pretty regular touch with Bainbridge, but we don't always know what they're going to do or what they have done. I will say that we did hear, I think last week, that they had reversed their position on a big box store going in because of some legal issues that they faced. And from my understanding, the big box store may well be proceeding. It's on their side. It is not on the Aurora side. And I do not expect such a building to be compatible with our mixed-use district and the design standards that we already have in place. That was one of the problems that Bainbridge has been facing in dealing with this particular project. They don't have the zoning in place yet, and they do not have design standards in place yet. So we have been very proactive, but you know, Bainbridge is an independent community and is governed by 3 township trustees with whom we do continue to remain in touch during the course of our development of this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Cudley?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Horvat. In conjunction with that, Mayor, I just caught the tail end of I can't remember what television station was, but they had a little segment about the defunct Jogga Lake Park. And I think they were interviewing a couple of patrons at Station 43, somebody from Solon, somebody from Bainbridge, about what's happening there. And I think the report also said that one of the Bainbridge trustees said that there was potential for some type of filmmaking production going on there. So I think it's important that the public watching this realize that that is Bainbridge. They have control over that property. We don't. And it's a little different. Where they are with their restrictions are nowhere near what we've already accomplished. Thank you, Mr. Horvat.
Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. President. We have also been looking at potential filmmaking opportunities, but ultimately neither Bainbridge nor Aurora owns the property. It's owned by Cedar Fair, and they have been speaking to various potential buyers. We have participated where it's appropriate. We also are asking for, or have asked, I think, for approval of council to proceed with a consultant again this year to help us so that we can be more proactive in the marketing of the property where, you know, from a slightly different perspective perhaps than the actual owner of the property, Cedar Fair, and also to help us with various tax sharing agreements that we might be able to enter into with Bainbridge Township. Thank you.
Mr. Hatridge?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I almost forgot to thank the chief, Byron, for his fast response for knocking out, or not knocking out, nailing some illegal solicitors that are working the Four Seasons in I think, Chatham situation, and they moved and got them out of there real fast. I just want to thank you for that fast action. Thanks, Chief.
Mr. Vaca?
Yeah, in regards to the Bainbridge, I thought there was a building moratorium on over there. Didn't they adopt one a while back?
Mr. DePiero?
Mr. President, Councilman Baca, they did enact a moratorium. My understanding is that the Meyer Superstore will be an exception to that moratorium. My understanding is that there was threat of litigation potentially, and it was decided that from their perspective that they would make some concessions in that regard, but I was not privy to the negotiations, so can't tell you exactly how that happened.
But the moratorium is still in place.
That's my understanding, correct.
Thank you.
Ms. Grandillo?
Yes, very briefly, I do want to apologize to both Mr. Cudley and the mayor that I will not be there next Thursday for the Historical Society. I will be on my way to see my son, but I'm with you in spirit, and I look forward to hearing the plans of moving the Deed House. Thank you.
Okay, also, we will not have a meeting next, or the 24th? To the 25th, we'll move it to Tuesday, so make that accordingly, make that adjustment accordingly. Nothing else to be brought before this committee?
So moved.
Second.
We have a move and second to adjourn. Ms. Frykhofer, please call the roll.
Mr. Vaca?
Yes.
Mr. Hatridge?
Yes.
Mr. Horvath?
Yes.
Mr. Cudley?
Yes.
Ms. McDougall? Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Ms. Barner?
Yes.
Ms. Grandillo?
Yes.